So we said the primary is going to be coming up in May. With the primary system here in Kentucky, you have to actually be part of the party in order to vote. You have to either be the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. For instance, the people who are registered independents can't vote in a primary election.
Correct.
What's your point of view on that? There has been talk of possibly opening it up so that you can just choose which primary you want to vote in and then you vote in that primary. What's your point of view on that?
Well, it's sad that independents can't do it because more than likely I would be an independent in many cases because I feel I align myself as an independent sometimes more than I do as a Democrat. And I'll be honest with you, I've registered as a Democrat as a young person, still registered as a Democrat because you've got a say in your primary. And to me, but at the same time, if you're going to have a say in the primary, if you're going to be on the team and you're going to choose your team captain, you want to be on the team while you're choosing. You don't want somebody else coming off the team, comes from the other bench, coming over saying, "I'm going to help you elect your team captain." Then I might go over to the other side and vote for them. And you got to, if you, I believe the closed primary is necessary. Now, if you want to be an independent and you truly want to be an independent, you're just simply not going to vote in the primary unless you can come up with an independent person to run as a third party. But you've got to get off the fence. You've got to basically say, I'm going to, for the primary purposes, and it doesn't kill you to do it, for the primary purposes, align as a Democrat or a Republican, and then choose your team leader, and then let them two go at each other. But if we start letting people, if we just have an open primary and anybody can vote in either primary, I mean, ideology basically is out the window. It's all going to be money then. It's simply just going to be money.
But and I like your point there, and I see that point. The problem that I have, at least for the closed primary, is it allows what I'm going to call the fringe of the parties to take control. You know, if you ask the bread and butter Republican, we never get our candidate. We always get the right-wing Christian conservative candidate. Why? Because they're better at grassroots organization. They go to, you know, if it's Parkway Baptist here in our town, wherever they go, they're able to mobilize, they're able to get out and vote, and we get somebody that, in my opinion, never has a shot of winning because they're too far to the right. So I would much rather see other people, because look at Kentucky. We have way more registered Democrats, right? In the state.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's
and yet,
2 or 3 to 1.
But we vote Republican nationally. So clearly we've got conservative Democrats like yourself that on the national level are coming over, and yet we're not seeing those kind of candidates. And I think we'd get a better candidate if we had a more open
you simply, in Kentucky going conservative, as you say, I think it's more in the moral, social issues than it is in the taxation issues. I mean, I really do believe this. I mean, you're going to get into very touchy-feely issues that really resonate with people. I mean, I'm a pro-life Democrat. Somebody can say, how do you be a pro-life Democrat? Simply, I'm pro-life and I'm a Democrat. But they say, well, how can you be that way? Because in your party itself, in your own party platform, it's pro-choice. Well, just because the platform says that's the way it is, doesn't mean that's the way you have to be. You work within your own party, you work from within your own party and try to fix things, try to make things better so that abortion never even becomes an issue. You know, try to find a better quality of life, better education, better ways to find that abortion never even becomes an issue. To me, that's how you fix the abortion issue. But when you go out and you have the party saying the Democrats are pro-abortion, and that's the word I hate, is pro-abortion, because I don't think there's anybody for abortion.
Absolutely.
But they say the Democrats are pro-abortion and the Republicans are anti-abortion. Well, sure, most people are going to say, yeah, you know, I'm anti-abortion, I'm going to go Republican. So I really do think there's a lot more Democrats out there than we know. They just vote a certain way because of the issues that tugs at their heart. And I know exactly how they feel because I've struggled with it all my life as well.
Now, you're saying that most people in Kentucky are registered Democrat.
Right.
I think, like you were saying, that's very historical, probably going back to like the Civil War.
Yeah, it goes back to
when Kentucky would be considered a southern state, I guess, at that time, and Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and a lot of the southern states went Democrat because of that. But
yeah, we seceded right after the war ended.
Yeah, exactly. So do you think that people just have that mindset that my parents were Democrat and what have you, so they register that way, but they still have a mentality of a different party?
Oh, I think it's exactly right. I think it's you register Democrat because your mom and your dad, your grandparents, your uncle and aunts are Democrats. You're a Baptist because your mom, dad, uncle and aunts. You're a Catholic because your mom, dad. Right. So yeah, a lot of that all stuff just comes right down the line. But when it comes down to individual pulling the lever, the switch, a lot of times it makes a either a charismatic person or a charismatic message can make a difference. I mean, I can remember years ago when I've tempted to join the Republican Party years ago because I sort of liked the image that Ronald Reagan had. I was a big Ronald Reagan fan. You know, I like this guy. I really like him. Tempted to become a Democrat. Said something to my dad, and he come close to disinheriting me. So I said, well, you know, why is his passion that way? And I realized, you know, that deep down, I really align with the Democratic ideals. In many of the ideals, there's some I don't agree with, but many more so than I do in the Republican ideals. But there's people out there. There's good people out there that are very charismatic, can really carry the message, can really make you feel good, make you feel like they got that that leadership quality that you can't define. I don't know how that. There's a lot of people that have that. So yeah, there's a lot of things that make you vote other way than you're actually registered.
And I think a lot of at least when I was coming through, people would say to me, "Okay, fine. You need to register as a Democrat, though, so you can vote in the primary." You know, then when you get to the national level, do whatever you want. But I mean, all of my relatives, I think a lot of them are Democrats registered, but they still. And
that happens here. That happens.
So let's wrap this up now. Again, we've been talking with Chad McCoy and with Kenny Fogel, representing our two different parties here in Kentucky. But for our last question, who in the Republican Party, and you're a Republican, he's a registered Republican, who in that party, nationally, locally, whatever, do you think you really admire as a Republican and their points of view? And I'll ask you this for the Democratic Party, too.
Boy, you're putting me on the spot. Yeah.
Well, do you have one? We can start over here.
Well, you know, we can go back to several presidents that I'm trying to think. And I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to go one that's people are just going to absolutely going to be sick when I say it. But you got somebody that's, and it's very similar to what I talked about earlier with Congressman Massey, is do you play the game in Washington, D.C.? You've got a man like, say, Jimmy Carter. And I know everybody says Jimmy Carter was a failed presidency, but to me, there's probably no more moral individual that ever sat in the White House than Jimmy Carter. There's nobody that more ideological that sat in the White House. He had his ideas and the way things to be. He just couldn't play the game. He could not play the game with the Congress. He couldn't go over and cut deals. He didn't know how to do this. He just simply was a backwoods boy that really was a small boy in a big forest. But as a person, Jimmy Carter is probably one of the best, finest individuals, and we've seen that all throughout the rest of his life. But they use him as an example of a failure. And why did he fail? He failed because Washington crushed him. But they'll say, well, you know, he's another Jimmy Carter. He can't do anything. But then again, that's the person we want. That's the very person we want to send to Washington, D.C. But when you send them up there and get crushed, we use them as an example of failure. So, I mean, what kind of logic is that? But again, to me, he's the kind of person I want to see as president, but I want to see an effective person, Jimmy Carter, as president.
And unfortunately, I don't know, and I think your point is that we may not be able to get that effective person.
Exactly.
Because you've got to play their game, and none of us want that. You know, I hope to see, when I think back to the ones that I've enjoyed over my life or that I respect, I go way back, and they usually have that image of the military general, the soft-spoken, carry a big stick kind of person that just is no nonsense and gets it done. And unfortunately,
They can't win.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eisenhower was really the last one to win, and that's before television. But
Yeah, exactly.
But television's a good thing.
Television is good, but Eisenhower he wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, I've been talking with Kenny Fogel and Chad McCoy for Political Focus here on Central Kentucky Television. Each week we hope to have different representatives from our different political parties, but also people who have been elected in our communities, and we're getting ready for the 2014 election season. This is Gary White for Central Kentucky Television.